Welcome, everybody, to AFTERBUZZ TV's Venture Brothers After Show. We're breaking down Season 6, Episode 5, Tanks for Nuthin, and Episode 6, It Happening One Night. We'll be talking about butt stuff, seating your sub-arching rights, and dressing up like Michael Jackson in Bad video to impress a girl. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Such a little melancholy little start here to the Venture Brothers After Show. Hey everybody, welcome! It's Sunday night, 11 o'clock Pacific time. That means we're talking Venture Brothers.
That's right.
That's right, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm your host, Frank Moran. Right there, follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. We're missing Dave Chow tonight. He is under the weather.
Yeah.
So he says. We'll see what that's really doing.
He didn't do his homework. He didn't watch the episode.
He was too scared. He was too scared. But we have, I guess we're putting the James all over, the sweet James, on that other side of the panel.
James side.
Coming up to my immediate left here, we've got James A. Janisse.
That's right, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at James A. Janisse or on YouTube at Practical Folks.
And rounding it out, we've got James Graessle.
And you can find me on Twitter at James Graessle. I changed it.
Oh, nice.
And also on YouTube at Practical Folks.
Look at that, yes! So as we're talking about Episode 5 and Episode 6, Tanks for Nuthin and It Happening One Night. I realized we talked about last week about really the episode, the season arc, focusing really on the Monarch's journey, really embracing the blue Morpho
For sure.
and arching all the white whales, like he's ceding his sub-arching rights to everybody else, so eliminating the competition.
Yeah, we see a little bit more of that in 605, and it's still not entirely clear to me what's going on with that. Like when he brings up the graph,
The flow chart.
And I think the show even just kind of waves it away because 21 starts going into the details, and the Monarch just kind of cuts him off, and it's like whatever, it doesn't matter. So I guess the show isn't interested in explaining, like parsing out the details here, but I don't really care.
I think it's more of just kind of like lampooning that kind of corporate hierarchy of the guild, though, because like the way that Wide Whale has kind of set himself up as this like mob boss type, it makes sense to me that he would find underlings to do his dirty work.
Yeah.
So like I don't have any kind of issue with it. It makes sense to me that he would find somebody to actually carry out the actual arching. He's not going to waddle over there and do it himself. I
do like, though, that the Monarch's biggest thing is, like, why aren't we putting this on the big screen? We're in this cool underground lair with this big computer. Why aren't we putting it up on that?
Yeah.
Like, this was made back in the 60s. It's like the memory is just, like, non-existent for this thing.
Yeah, it's like the Nixon era computer.
The speak and spell. That's his comparisons. Like less memory than a speak and spell.
Yeah.
Well, and we start the episode, and I guess it's like many couples when maybe like the husband gets out of work and basically is just letting himself kind of waste away. Doesn't really, at least to Dr. Mrs. the Monarch's point of view, he's really just doing nothing with his life.
Yeah.
And so she gives him a little talking to. It's like, come on, you got to just arch somebody. You know, you got to prove to everybody that you're better than a 4.
And this has kind of been like the most contentious their relationship has been since they got married, I think. Because in season 2 they were split up and she was with Phantom Limb, and then they got back together after that, and I think since then it's been pretty smooth sailing. Yeah. Like for the most part they've been like a power couple, but now we're seeing some tension there as he's just, you know, in her eyes, like you said, just laying around not doing anything. She's trying to run the guild.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like in the whole series, certainly Dr. Mrs. the Monarch has always come across as the more competent of the two, for sure. And now, given this time to shine, I mean, she's really just, you know, you can see she's just really heading right to the top, and she's a member of the Council of 13.
I think one of the things that she always respected about the Monarch, though, was the passion that he had for the job, and I think that it's seeing him without that is driving her to kind of like push him in, you know, into some kind of direction. Like even she suggests even like rob a bank, like do something, just go do something.
Yeah, and it's hard to think with the Monarch like how much of that passion for being a supervillain is just centered around Rusty.
Yeah,
and you take him out of the equation and he's kind of rudderless. He's like, what do I do now if I can't arch the guy that I love to do more than anything to?
Yeah, she even says get a new nemesis, and he says, oh, that went really well last time. Is he referring to Dr. Dugong?
I think so.
Way back in season 3 or 4, it's hard to keep track. I think 3.
I think it was 3.
When he killed Dr. Dugong, who it's revealed as Wide Whale's brother, we think.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
And I do like when you married me, it was for better or for worse, not better than 4.
Yeah, that's great. I love that line.
And then we see Brock, which I love this. We kind of get more development with Warriana waking up in her place with a cat's tail in his butt.
Yeah, their relationship is my favorite part of these episodes so far.
I completely agree. I love how kind of real it feels. Like when she's just like on the computer and like, oh hey, there's coffee or whatever. Like just the naturalism of it is something that I think Venture Brothers does so well when they do it well. It's something that's great about Dr. Mrs. and the Monarch.
Yeah.
Like they have a very natural like rapport, and I think that we've so far we've seen that with Brock and Warriana, and I hope that keeps going. Like I really enjoyed that scene. Like and then like hung over Brock when he gets back to the compound and he like
with the knife.
Yeah, because we see her at the compound there, and they're digging out the orangutan's body out of the big hole.
Yeah,
and she and Dr. Mrs. Monarch feels like it's Samson. Samson, of course, we know.
Yeah,
this is his handiwork, right there. Look at the way his head's turned around. Like
so, what's the joke with Harangutan? What's is that a pun that I'm missing?
I think it's a pun. I think to harangue is a verb.
To harass?
To harass, to assault.
Yeah, and then he's an orangutan.
Right, but he's also Irish?
Sure.
Yeah, because it did seem to play into the last episode where you would just gotta get at Brock's face and just kind of start, being harassing him, but not really getting into an altercation. It was just always kind of pushing him and trying to get him to take the first swing. It seemed like, and then it'd be like all bets are off. You take the first swing, and then I'm gonna just start clubbing you to death.
Yeah.
And then we find out, of course, we're back in the lair, and we learn about Wide Whale's his seating scheme to sub-arch everybody else. But then I see the Monarch is really starting to second guess everything. I was like, do I kill people? Do we kill Manolo? I mean, does he know too much? Poor Manolo. I mean, he's been doing so much work on this stuff.
Yeah, it's quality.
It's quality. You're paying for the quality.
And I like that we can actually take a moment to have those conversations where you're talking about a big character we've seen just, every so often, but like we'll take a moment to discuss about the quality of his craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And then we get to see Hank in disguise again. Like this one seemed more deliberate this time.
Yeah, when he's a waiter for
Wide Whale.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like nothing really comes of that, right? He doesn't report back to anyone.
No, I think it's only in an effort to get closer to what's her face?
Yeah, what is it?
Serena.
Serena. Yeah, I think that it's. I mean, this is something that we've seen before. Hank is actually pretty competent. He's just dumb. Like he just doesn't know how to focus those skills. Like think about when he had the Sphinx suit.
Oh yeah.
And he was like an actual like pretty successful superhero, or like when he was the private detective, and he like was pretty good at that except for being dumb. And I think that that's kind of the case here. Like he's infiltrated a major supervillain.
Yeah. But to
like just get closer to like the girl that he has a crush on.
Yeah.
And we find out the whale is using hologram technology to go beam up there to the base with the Council of 13, and they're talking about the blue Morpho, and they're like, "Well, we think it's a blue Morpho." I'm like, well, he's dead, isn't he? Like, somebody must be taking over the mantle for this thing. And I do like when the conversation wraps up, that everybody's like, why didn't anybody tell me we could just hologram in?
Yeah, that's the best. Because, like, as soon as they showed that in this episode, I was like, why haven't they been doing this the whole time? It's like, they're wondering the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like you have to get, because that can't be easy just to get all the way up there.
No, that's like,
it's space travel.
Yeah. You're in some kind of suborbital meteor.
You're calling Elon Musk like every weekend just to go to your secret meeting.
He's a supervillain for sure.
But then we feel Dr. Mrs. the Monarch. She goes over to the bar and talks to Harangutan's wife.
Yeah, Battle Axe. Battle Axe kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It seemed like a character who was just a lot of yelling. For me personally, I don't know.
Which is something that we've talked about before. The way that this show treats its female characters isn't the greatest.
Oh, I didn't even think about that in terms of Battle Axe.
I think it's like a derogatory term for that type of woman, like a loud Irish woman.
Oh, it kind of is.
Yeah.
And she has that line about like he would beat me when he was in his cups,
right?
Yeah,
which is like an Irish stereotype
for sure. Yeah,
but I agree. I think she was kind of a problematic character, but I do like that they dealt with the death of Harangutan in a very real way. Like we have to go alert his next of kin.
That's true. Yeah,
and that's a job for Dr. Mrs. is part of the guild.
And why do I pay these dues anyway?
Right.
If you're not going to help out the widow.
Yeah.
And then we also find out that since Harangutan's out of the picture, subarching rights goes to Dr. Nadaba or Professor Nadaba.
Oh, yeah.
Voiced by Jeffrey Wright, which was great to see there. And I like his getup. He happens to be Dean's teacher at school.
Yeah, and when he tells Dean to stay away from, he tells Dean to stay away from the compound during the hours of like 9 to 10:30.
Yeah.
When he's going to be arching, does he actually like Dean?
I think he
Is that
likes
the implication?
Dean. I think, This also kind of maybe plays into some fan theory that Dean is going to end up as the sovereign of the guild.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he's like the it's something to do with the orb. He's like the heir.
Well,
in some way,
he was given
the orb.
Yeah, but then he gave it back to David Bowie.
Right.
Rest in peace.
But I mean, like, it could just be a teacher having some affection for a promising student, or it could be a larger thing. You never know with this show.
Okay.
That's true. I do like how it tells Dean that his paper was truly terrible.
Yes.
this is truly terrible.
Yeah, after flipping through it in like a second.
Right.
But I do like when you see somebody like Professor Nadaba, like, how could you not just assume that he's got to be a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That kind of,
And that voice.
Yes. I mean, very much reminded me of like Hector Hammond from the Green Lantern comics.
Oh, okay.
Yes, just somebody with a large head and a really tiny body that has to float around on a little chair to get around all the place.
I mean, for anyone who quotes Nietzsche that much is definitely going to be.
How could they not know that?
Yeah.
And then we find out his arch villain name is Think Tank.
Yeah.
Which is like, that was just perfect.
I like his little tank that he's driving around.
Yeah, I think it's a clever idea, but I think that the execution is a little bit obnoxious.
With the character?
Yeah, I just like, I do think it's funny that he goes up to Arch Rusty and expects this battle of wits with this super scientist, which he probably would have got from JJ.
Yeah.
And Rusty's more of a Parcheesi guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Rusty's so lame.
Yeah, it's like, I was not expecting this. All right.
Yeah.
So that part I really liked, and that was funny. I didn't love the Sherlock-y bit.
Oh yeah, that seemed kind of out of place. I mean, I guess his whole thing is intelligence,
like perception and intelligence, and
But I think my issue with that sequence was that there weren't jokes there. It was just kind of like aping that style and doing it directly without any kind of like spin on it.
No, that's very true. Yeah, it's like you notice a pollen on your sleeve. You're giving somebody flowers.
Yeah, and that's not even like a funny thing to be on his sleeve. Yeah, that's just like, factual.
Right.
And I don't, and perhaps it has been mentioned before, and I just do not remember it. But at the beginning of the episode, when we see Dean leaving as they're taking out Harangutan's body, he's carrying flowers, and he says, "I'm going to give these to Uncle Hatred." And it was like interesting hearing him refer to his Uncle Hatred.
Yeah. Yeah. They've called.
I think they started that last season.
Okay.
Maybe around the time he grew breasts.
That's true.
The perfect time to call you somebody uncle.
Yeah. You grow a breast, you seem kind of uncle-ish. Avuncular, is that the right adjective?
Yeah.
English student right here.
Yeah, right.
English grad.
And while this is all going down at the Venture Tower, there we've got Monarch in 21 trying to get the Morpho mobile out of police impound yard, while also Dr. Mrs. and Battle Axe trying to get the Harangutan's battle van out of there. Which, man, what a dump that thing is! Just like, you can just smell how bad it was inside there. And we do see that Wide Whale is able to get security footage from the night that whole Harangutan's murder went down, and gives it over to Dr. Mrs. And it's on her laptop. And while she's trying to sees the blue Morpho, trying to figure out who the heck he is, Harangutan's wife watches it and sees like, oh man, puts two and two together, thinks the similarities between Monarch and Rusty are just too obvious that he is actually the blue Morpho.
Yeah, everyone's thinking that.
Yeah, which
I'm starting to think it.
It was interesting until once I saw that, it was, like, I never really put two and two together. But once you just trim down that beard, it is interesting just how similar they look.
I mean, Monarch has more hair on top, but that could.
But it's still that same kind of red. Reddish.
They have the same builds for sure.
Yeah, the slender build. I mean, we talked about it last time, or 2 times ago maybe. We've talked about it here on the show, the theory of that they're the actual Venture brothers.
Yeah.
And I think that this is drawing another parallel between them. And whether or not they're in fact brothers, I think that the connection between them is greater than we've so far been led to believe. But I love the Blue Morpho stuff in this episode. I think it's the strongest part of the episode. the little grabby thing to push the button.
Yeah,
I'm glad that
in
got
the
used.
impound.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Especially because at the beginning of the episode, they're like, "What would you even use this for?
Right.
What's the
Back
point?"
scratcher? Yeah. It comes in handy. That's great.
And so that whole chase in the parking garage I thought was fantastic, and then the reveal of that the car can turn into a plane was really well
So
done.
great.
All through just happenstance and accidents and the Monarch just like bumping his head on the button and
That's
everything.
the Monarch way.
Yeah, just falling ass backwards into it.
And speaking of ass, I do like the fact that when you get in a flying car and you get to fly around, what do you want to do? You want to go poop?
Yeah,
Somebody's
that's
pool.
true Monarch
Yes,
charm.
yeah. Let's swing by his place. I want to go poop in his pool.
Yeah.
And I love that they actually show that whole payoff just to see.
Yeah, you actually see the little.
Which I give it up for being able to make something happen that fast.
Yeah.
Like, it'd
Yeah.
be one thing for me to say, like, I want to poop in somebody's pool. And it's like, all right, well, let me
And
go
the
eat.
timing.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
ready to go,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
I never have one like just locked right there, just just for that. Yeah, that.
That's why you're not a supervillain.
No, that's one of
Yeah.
the special gifts you got. If you want to be supervillain, you got to be ready to poop at a moment's notice.
Is the battle van a rip or a play on the Ninja Turtles van from the cartoon?
Or the A-Team van, maybe. I'm not well versed in 80s pop culture.
It seems I would probably say maybe the Turtle Van, but because it feels like a little too big for the A-Team van. I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking that.
Okay.
But the turtle van, if I remember right, had more of kind of that blocky, like with the like blinders in front of it
Yeah.
and everything. It just reminded me of it, and I didn't know if that was something that they were playing with. But they have like, you'd think if they did that, they would do something with like turtles, the turtle villains. Or
They
whatever.
like to just mash stuff
They
up.
do.
Yeah.
They do.
And I do like that when Think Tank does show up there and he tries to play chess with them. That the Rusty's first thing is like, I'm gonna call and get customer service for this. Because like this guy's a talker. Come on, guys. How am I supposed to get any work done? You keep sending these guys at me all the time. And we do see Brock shows up and they get in a little tussle with Think Tank and he throws him out the window, blasts him out the window, and Warriana picks him up.
Yeah.
That's like, and they have a little heart-to-heart moment about the relationship. Oh, I'm sorry, I was
that's
so
another one of those really real moments.
Yeah.
just like two real people would have, and I really appreciate seeing it.
For sure.
Especially,
No, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that the way that we were kind of introduced to Warriana as part of the the Avengers takeoff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically the Adventures.
They were very like corporate and kind of douchey, whatever. But she seems kind of over it and like whatever.
yeah.
About the whole being a superhero thing, and she finds Brock interesting, and that's kind of a way kind of back into it. And I really like that aspect of it, that she's better than these men. So even where we get Battle Axe,
Yeah.
I think Warriana is a good female character.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Because we see her early in the episode kind of as a talking head talking about with the captain about the god gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this true? Is this god gas? It's like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, because she mentions like I have a lot going on with my alter ego, my alter ego's career.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we didn't even touch on Billy with this god gas. They white films him, I guess, David Hasselhoff trying to eat that
David
cheeseburger.
Hasselhoff and David at the dentist.
Dentist, yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah,
he
is this real
starts
life?
screaming just like that. Yeah.
Poor Billy. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
And then I love the implication in that scene too. They're all watching it around the table, and the Action Man is like, can't handle his God gas. And I love the implication that the Action Man has been God gassed like
definitely.
numerous times.
Definitely. Yeah. One thing I'd like to say before we move on is just thinking about Battle Axe and Harangutan being like kind of Irish stereotypes. I feel like this season is leaning a little bit more into the ethnic stereotypes than it usually does. I'm thinking of the tailor,
Yeah.
Italian tailor is really just this
Yeah.
like real basic Italian, like slapping in the face and spitting
Yeah.
and just that guy. And then Manolo, you have like your basic Spanish, like
construction-
construction
yeah.
guy, and then these like Irish villains. And I can't think of
Well, Wide Whale even, and why can't I remember her name?
Serena.
Serena.
Yeah, but
And Rocco.
those are more like mafia. And I
Genre
know
tropes.
that genre tropes rather than like ethnic. Like the Italian tailor is just Italian,
Right.
And I'm trying to think, have previous seasons had characters that lean so much into that? Because the only one I can think of that's kind of like really focused on his ethnicity is that OSI doctor who works for Sphinx. Like ever since the Iron Man, everybody wanted the robot arm.
Yeah.
But like that's such like a vague like ethnicity to that. I don't
Well,
think
there's Jefferson.
The Blackula hunter.
Yeah.
But that's
kinda,
even like a blaxploitation type.
They like make fun of that.
Yeah.
But
so I don't know.
Do you think that the New York setting has something to do with that?
Oh, maybe. I mean, you could
the
argue
multicultural kind of aspect of the city versus like wherever
Colorado.
in the world that they would go in their adventures in the earlier seasons.
Yeah, maybe. Just a thought that bubbled up in this old head.
No, not a bad thought that you're talking about there. And we do end as we see since the Monarch wanted to take a poop in Rusty's pool. Dr. Mrs. Sees the car go by and then happens to see Rusty lean over the window, lean over the balcony.
Yeah.
And assumes like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I think Rusty is actually.
When she ends the episode, I know who my enemy is.
Yes.
So yeah.
So that takes us over to episode 6. It Happening One Night, where we open up with the.
Oh wait, 605. You've got to mention it ends with 2 more villains dying in that hole.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, we see. Dr. Mrs. almost gets into an accident with Harangutan's wife, Battle Axe, and she jumps over like an embankment, runs into the think tank, and they go right back down the hole that White Will opened up.
That's so funny. That hole is just like this pit of death for these super villains.
Yeah, I do like that, and I do like as much as Monarch was talking about trying to eliminate everybody, that it's not always by his hand that it happens. So it's cool that it's also just fate and coincidence that happens to be knocking these people off as well.
Yeah.
As is the Monarch way.
Exactly. Yeah. So speaking of just homages that we talked a little bit about, the Challenge of the Super Friends riff kind of starts us off with episode 6 It Happening One Night.
Yes, the League of Doom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we get it all from like from the Legion of Doom's bunker lifting out of the swamp. We got it living out of the river here of New York, and we run down the list of everybody that's part of the Doom Factory.
Yeah.
10 of the most ruthlessly self-involved villains, like Frigid, Serpentine, Eeny Meeny, Jared the Gorilla, Black Mariah, Trashenstein, the Exquisite Corpse, which I love that one, Ultraviolent, Billy Mame, Shehemoth, Hard Candy, and the leader Wes Morehammer.
Yeah.
Quite a assemblage of rogues right there.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw the Legion of Doom riff. I was like, this is something that I can't believe they waited 6 seasons to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go into it, and it's Andy Warhol's like posse. It's just so funny that they went that direction with it, and it's the. What is it? The Plastic Factory, Dream Factory. What is his thing? The real thing called?
See, I was gonna lean on you for the Warhol knowledge.
Yeah. It's
I know factory girls are a thing.
Yeah, it was something factory was his like movement. That and it's the Doom Factory that they're playing with in the show, and then it goes back. They just run at the like pop art aspect of it. And I think that's such a hilarious decision that they turned Andy Warhol into like a super villain.
Yeah. Do you know if the numerous villains in there are specific references to Andy Warhol acquaintances, or are they just like punny? Because like this is one of the things the Venture Brothers does best is these one-off characters with a funny name and a funny appearance, and it's just so clever. Yeah. And they'll just say the name and move on, and you kind of have to like pause it and be like, why
are you a person?
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
I'm really hoping Trashenstein, the Exquisite Corpse, is based off something.
Yeah,
like
what?
Yeah.
And then we have Brock watching a video with Rusty, Dean, and Hank, and they've got some kind of video warning that danger is coming to them. So what are they going to do? And so Brock's like, hey, nobody's going out. Everybody's sticking around. And we have Dr. Mrs. telling the Council of 13 that, hey, guess what? Rusty is actually the Blue Morpho. Nobody buys that for a second. Like, there's no way this guy, even though we consider him, elite now, come on, he's not that smart. He can't be actually killing everybody.
Yeah, the world's laziest super scientist just became like a super villain killing assassin machine. Yeah.
And then we have, Hank wants to do this episode. Kind of our main through line is Hank taking Serena out on a date.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's a fun.
This I really enjoyed. I liked the goofiness of it. I like getting Dean and White involved. As in his schemes, and four different albinos.
This is definitely a Venture trait, because it reminds me of when that general visited the Venture compound way back in season 2, I think, and Dr. Venture had Orpheus and Brock and the boys dressing up as different things,
to do
and they would like go do an outfit change and come in. I think they even had the same type of thing where it's like, oh, we're not gonna be able to get to this gag, and like Billy's like, oh, like I won't be the baby in the carriage.
It was interesting though to think, considering the last episode, how closely White Whale's henchmen were following Serena, like through the park, that she was able to get out without anybody following her on this date with Hank. Until later on, then because we do find out that she's got a little tracking chip in her arm, so it's not a tracker, but that no other henchmen are really close by her at all. It seemed kind of weird to me.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
I think the implication was that she snuck out, and that's why she had to get rid of the chip. She said something about, like, oh, I always dig them out before, when I, like, go out to have fun or whatever. And I think that's what she's implying, is that she sneaks out.
So maybe she was, like, ostensibly in her room, snuck out, and wanted to get it out before they discovered that she wasn't actually home.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I do like that Hank's idea of like dressing up to impress a date is like dressing up with Michael Jackson from the Bad video. Like, what?
Yeah, how do you come by that outfit?
I have no idea.
You know what? I think that he's just one of those guys, like, now with his newfound riches, he was like, you know what I want? The bad outfit. And then he made it happen. Good one. Yeah, right. That's such a great joke.
But it's like, I don't know, I guess it'd be tough to think if I was going to try to impress a date and money was no object, who would I choose to dress like? And I don't know if I would look at Michael Jackson with that bad outfit and think like, that's... But I mean, I don't know who I would dress as.
Yeah.
Oh, but all those zippers, though.
I remember a friend in high school had one of those like zipper jackets, and we just made fun of him. It's like, come on, like, this is way too late to be wearing something like this.
But Hank had the moves to back it up too. When he confronts him, he scares him off with some legit moves. I'd say
it was impressive.
Yeah, it worked on Serena. And that's one of the things I like about this subplot, is that she's into him. She finds his dorkiness endearing. Yeah, and I like that, especially Triana. I don't think she ever found Dean's.
She never had like
attraction.
Right.
It was more like, oh, like you're cute.
You're
like
a good guy.
Yeah. But Serena actually seems to be into Hank, and that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I agree, and I think that that's part of what made this storyline enjoyable to watch, was that she returned kind of some of his affection, goofiness aside. It would have been a frustrating, I think, storyline if she was like, like through
or had some nefarious reason to date him.
But that it's all like up and up. Really makes the comedy work better, and I think helps the Brock and Rocco subplot. Yeah, which it lets them kind of connect without any kind of like other thing going on, where they just have this kind of like mutual respect.
Yeah, it's as you mentioned, that Brock is trying to get everybody locked down in the tower, but we find out from Hatred that Hank is left on a date with Serena, so he's following him over to Central Park. While he's doing that, they come across the chip. He finds that. All of a sudden, Rocco is there as well, tracking the chip, and they start fighting. Or I do like when they're first like, where'd you learn like the cool jumping move from Troy? From Troy,
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, all right, that's sweet. And I do like that it was just like two guys just really going at each other, and you don't often see Brock like really just kind of match man for man in a lot of fights.
Yeah, that's very rare. I guess Rocco's up there.
Well, he was Delta Force.
Damn. So,
if they had a baby, would it be a Brock Lobster?
Oh, shut down.
Follow me on Twitter at James Janisse. Thank you.
I do like, we're not gonna put labels on this, but what if we do like some kind of like team up kind of thing with no labels? So we can track this down. And while they're tracking down Hank and Serena, they go to this cool ninja restaurant, which I love that.
That's great.
That was so cool. And they have White and Dean playing paparazzi.
Yeah,
which I like
happens all the time.
I was figuring out like all these things, like one a mugger, one under dressed like Michael Jackson, like bad. Then I'm gonna have a paparazzi. I'm also gonna play guitar for you with somebody else plays bongos. Yeah, like these are all the ways I'm gonna really serenade and seduce.
It sounded like Pete pretended to lose a cat up a tree. Yeah. It's probably the same cat that they got for the pirate when he was detoxing.
Yeah. Yes. And I do like Billy was dressed as a baby that they were going to use, and they didn't get a chance to, and also dressed as like a homeless person.
He's like wheels up. Why didn't we get to be ninjas?
But they go to the ninja restaurant, and of course we get the Brown Widow works there. Yeah. Which that's a great just like kind of like background character that I just love popping up more and more.
Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, once they said they were going to New York, I was like, Nathan Fillion's got to be back, and I'm glad that it wasn't just that premiere episode that he. He's around.
Yeah, he's got so many things going on. He gives tours on campus. He also works at the ninja restaurant.
He's a struggling actor, apparently.
I think that's so funny the way that they fleshed out that character and made him like an aspiring musical theater star instead of like the more traditional like Peter Parker spoof. Like he could have been, he could have been a photographer or whatever. He could have been like a scientist or whatever. And instead, he's like, he wants to sing. Like, he just wants to sing and dance.
I'm rusty.
Yeah.
And we do find out that he's also Serena's ex.
Yeah.
I feel like Serena doesn't really think that, but Jared was like, yeah, we were. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, it's a little ambiguous. And then that made me question how old he was. But I guess Peter Parker's not old.
No.
Yeah, so...
He's eternally young.
Right. Yeah. So Brown Widow, you surmised, was like 22?
Like 21, 22. Like, he's like an RA or something.
I can't tell if he's an RA or if he's like a teacher's
TA,
assistant. Yeah.
But like somebody that's already gone out and worked for a few years, like, maybe I can go back to school and get my master's or
maybe something like that, yeah.
A little bit older than everybody else, but he's like trying to still fit in. Like, come on, guys. I'm one of you guys, right?
Yeah.
So while all that's going down, we find out that with Rusty left alone at the compound, one of the just like the most like passive, like really relaxed kind of takeovers of the Venture Tower. Just like everybody just shows up, they're decorating, they're inflating the pillows and the balloons and all that stuff, and setting it up all over the place. Like, what's going on here? They're shooting in the panic room. They're shooting a little film inside there.
Oh, that's where they were.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
He runs into the panic room, and that's the like studio.
I love this whole thing with them arching him this way because it's so effective on Dr. Venture. He has such pride, and the fact that that's their way to get him is to just like totally demean him and build him up as, oh yeah, you're my muse, and then just totally break him down.
Yeah, and he's so confused by this whole thing, which I love. But he's so into it at first, like the takeoff. Oh, just get this dickie on. Just anytime he keeps a dickie on, he's rolling around. It's just always great.
I love that the rejection is more hurtful than like the thievery or like the arching itself. Like he's had other, or like we just saw in the previous episode, like with Think Tank had like a giant tank gun pointed at him, but that he calls customer service to complain about. But when he's like arched this way, where they're really attacking his ego, that's what is super effective, and that's what really hurts him. Is like, but wait, you don't want to keep. He's not here anymore. You're not going to keep shooting me. You're not like,
because I feel like he definitely wants he loves just being like the source of like inspiration, or just like somebody, somebody's muse. Just like he matters in some aspect to somebody, and it doesn't have anything to do with being, Jonah's son at all. It just has to be like, hey, I like you for you.
Mm-hmm. So I would argue that maybe Wes is the most effective arch-nemesis that Venture's ever had.
I think you're probably right. No one else is really Depending on your point of view, JJ.
Oh, okay. But it just reminds me of the Monarch kind of did this once to Dr. Venture when he had him chained up. It was a season finale, I think maybe 4. But
4 was prom.
Oh, then it
must have been 3.
No, it was 5 then.
Okay.
But he had him chained up in his home, and then he just like didn't feel up for torturing him.
Oh,
and then he lets him go. And he's like, that was my plan all along, to like make him think I don't care anymore. And it worked, kind of. Like, it really made Rusty feel dejected. So I think that's really, if any supervillain is watching this and wants to know how to arch Dr. Venture, get As Pride.
Yeah, and while we have all that going on, we've sort of got the Monarch still going around, and they find out that, of course, Warhammer's trying to get Rusty, so they're going to go to his lair, get rid of that, figure if he doesn't have a lair, that's going to kind of knock him down a few points there in the ranking system.
And I like that that's almost the Monarch being sweet, still in like a dickish way, for 21's concerns about killing people. He's like, fine, we'll blow up his lair, and he'll get demoted, and you don't have to kill anyone.
Because I feel like that was like another running gag of both 21 and then Rocco recommending Blood on My Hands.
Same book,
You should read this book, Blood on My Hands.
Yeah, that's so funny. Is that a real book, or is that just something they made up? It could be, though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a great title. It makes me want to look it up. See, is this for real?
Yeah, I'll order it on Amazon.
And I do like, they get a chance to try out, the sweet hovercrafts over there to get over to the game factory.
The Morpho cycles, did they call them? Or
Morpho boats?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The morph scooters.
Yes. Morpho scooters, and then when the Monarch falls in the river and they're all like, you need antibiotics, you gotta take a shot, like, it's the gross New York River.
Yeah.
And I still, and we've talked about this before, but just how much more competent 21's become. Just to see him, like, the way that he enters, he has such a flair. He knows how to use the weapons and the utilities to be able to gain access and stuff. Makes it look good, while the Monarch's just stumbling along, trying to use a grapple gun to get in and just failing miserably.
But that's never... He's still 21. It hasn't changed who his character is at its core. Like, he's still... you know, like acknowledges that the like running away from the explosion would be awesome, but like nobody's there to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they get in there and they start. Yeah, of course, the Monarch has brought a bunch of explosives, a lot of blue Morphos explosives, and they just kind of litter up the whole Doom factory with it to explode. But when they try to get out there, it's all duds. It's from the '60s. How well do you expect these things to be actually to work? So
yeah, and then like the Monarch's like jacket gets caught, and you're like, oh, then it adds like the ticking time bomb literally kind of aspect to it, which was really exciting.
No, but we see the Doom Factory, instead of blowing up at that moment, it's all duds and it takes off. I feel like Warhammer's recalling it so he can. What we find out is storing it full of all of Rusty's experiments inside there.
Yeah, and then it takes off with him and his crew, and then it finally blows up, and that's more supervillains.
Which I know, and which again playing into the Warhol thing, like your 15 minutes of fame right there. That was it, boom, and then they're gone, just like that.
Yeah, and all of Venture's inventions, I guess, too. So that might affect the bottom line. You know? He just lost a lot of science.
Right. He did mention about the Billy video, like costing them shareholders and stuff.
So this might be, he's already like
driving the company into
6
the ground.
episodes in, he's already ruining an empire.
And that's the thing, when you think there's only 2 more episodes left. I mean, I guess it makes sense to be escalating it this quickly. It's like, wow, man, geez. You gotta remember, I'm not getting 22 episodes. We're getting 8.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be maybe a year or 2 before we get another season.
I would like to just say one thing. I don't know if you're a gamer at all. I used to be in a past life, but the game that Dr. Venture and Sergeant Hatred are playing is actually a real game. It's Team Fortress 2. And I find it really funny that Dr. Venture, we see him as a pyro with like a flamethrower, and he runs up behind a guy's back and kills him. And my theory here is, in case anyone watching cares about this, is there's a version of the flamethrower called the back burner, and it gives you extra damage if you attack from behind. The downside to it is that it takes away the air puff, which will extinguish teammates who are on fire. So it's kind of like a selfish move to use that weapon because it'll get you more kills, but you can't help your teammate. And I would just like to say Rusty would definitely use that weapon. Absolutely.
Haven't you said before that there's like a kind of a Venture subculture in that game? Is that true? Is that a thing that you've said before, or am I totally inventing that?
You might be inventing that.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, all right. And we do find out that Rocco and Brock, they're tracking down everybody to the ninja restaurant. They start smacking people around, and but Hank and Serena have actually ducked out, and they jump in the water. Serena needs to, to be able to get in the water to,
every 6 hours.
Yeah, every 6 hours. Are your feet going to turn into fins or a big tail? Is that what's going to happen? But then Hank jumps in there as well, and they have a nice little kiss right underneath the water.
Nice.
It was sweet.
Yeah.
The whole storyline, it really brought me around, I think, to Serena and to that thread in general. I was really lukewarm on until this episode, and I think that they captured it in a very good way. The
innocent teens kind of way, like starstruck lovers,
Yeah,
I think they call it well.
but in the kind of natural way that we talked about earlier with like Brock and Warriana, like with where it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel like too dependent on the fact that they're the son of a super scientist and the son of or the daughter of a supervillain. Yeah. So it's just 2 people who are into each other going on a date, and I enjoyed that.
And one last thing to backpedal back to the episode 5, just with Brock and Warriana. It's just at the end when they say, we go back to my place, no butt stuff, and then gives her the last one. I was like, all right, very cool.
Yeah.
Then we also have, we didn't touch on Dr. Mrs. in this episode. After she talks to the Council of 13, they decide to have a little role playing, like the farmer's daughter. And the Monarch tranks her to get out and go play his blue Morpho and take care of the Doom Factory. So to cover his tracks, he also acts like he's tranked himself. So wake up the next morning, and Phantom Limb calls and says, oh man, all right, blue Morpho, he struck again. He eliminated everybody here.
There's such a good beat when Phantom Limb calls and she answers, and he's like, oh, councilwoman, and because she's still in that disguise, and it's just a small little beat that I didn't even notice the first time. It's just another great detail of the show.
Yeah, it looks like with only 2 episodes left, I think like the tension's going to be mounting there for the Monarch. How's he going to keep this going?
Do you have any predictions?
I guess we're getting ready to do a quick round of predictions here.
Ooh.
Yes.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
This is the fun part of the episode since both James have watched this entire season already. I have not, neither of Dave Child. So this is the part where I make a prediction and then they just scoff at me like, what a dum-dum.
Stone faces.
That's what he thinks? Oh, brother. Okay. I don't know. It's interesting to see because I feel like there's so much potential, but with only 2 episodes left. It feels like which stories... Because there seems like a lot of different threads, and which ones do you feel like are worthy enough to really tie up in this episode, and which ones are maybe to be left as dangling threads to maybe picked up in the following season.
Sure.
But I feel like you can't really introduce Hank and Serena without maybe having some kind of resolution to that. And I'd be curious to see if like Brock and Rocco have to have some sort of really big final match, even though they seem to have some kind of at least a grudging respect for each other. Like when they're talking about, like, did they freeze? Did the OSI freeze you in '79 and then just bring you out right now? So I feel like that. I feel like the Hank and Serena thing is going to be one element that's going to be brought up, and then of course we got the Blue Morpho. It is so enjoyable. I don't want it to end.
Yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
I don't want it to end this season. I'd love for it to continue, because especially if the idea that I threw out last time is if he starts actually embracing the idea of the Blue Morpho identity and wants to see what he could do with it. That seems fodder, especially this late in the season, to have its own season, just exploring that other side of how things would be.
Yeah.
Frank, those are interesting predictions.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the stone face without letting me go. So that's going to do it here for our Venture Brother there we go. I always seem to fail to stick the landing on that one. The Venture Brothers After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. We talked about episodes 5 and 6. We'll be back next week to wrap up season 6 with episodes 7 and 8. So again, like us on Facebook. Give us those sweet 5 stars on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, #ABTV Venture Brothers. Continue the conversation online with us on Twitter. We love to talk about it. So if they want to follow you guys, where can they follow you? James?
You can follow me at James Graessle on Twitter and Practical Folks on YouTube.
At James Janisse on Twitter and Instagram, Practical Folks on YouTube.
And you follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. And you can follow Dave Child at Mr. Dave Child. Please be well, Dave Child. We miss you so much.
His presence was felt.
This is in honor of, this is a memory of Dave Child. Rest in peace, Dave Child. Wait, is he? No? Is he? Maybe we'll know. Find out. We'll find out next week.
Find out next week.
Yes.
Tune in.
Until then, we'll see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Go Team Venture!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.